Here we go. Power of a product. And all that says is that if I'm multiplying A times B and I've got two values and both of them have an exponent, we can simply take that exponent and distribute it to both of those in the parentheses and just say A to the M times B to the M. And that's what you're going to see in these following examples. I've got 4 up here. So I've got 8A to the 5th. Squared. So I'm going to go ahead and distribute that in, and we are going to multiply those values in there. So I'm going to have 8 to the 2nd and A to the, now listen to this, we got power of a power, 5 times 2. So 5 times 2, which is going to be 8 squared times A to the 5 times 2 is 10. That's that power of a power property we just talked about a little while ago. So 8 squared is 64. Times A to the 10th. Now this continues all the way throughout this same pattern. I'm going to take 2 times C to the negative first to the 3. I'm going to distribute that in. I'm going to get 2 to the 3rd power. And then I've got to pay attention to the power of a power, which is C to the negative 1 times 3. And 2 to the 3rd is 8 times C to the negative 3. Now this is a negative exponent. Okay, and one of the things we learned about it is if I have A to the negative N, just 1 over A to the N. So this negative 3 makes it go to the bottom of a fraction. So we get 8 over C to the 3rd power. Okay, and that will write it out as a positive exponent. So we keep working with this. Let's go to the next one where I have negative 2d to the 10th with a negative 2. I'm going to distribute that in to everything. And I also have to go ahead and pay attention to the fact that it's going to this negative value out here in the front. Okay, a lot of people forget about that. So I'm going to write negative 1, which is essentially this value, negative 1 times 2, to the negative 2nd power times 2 to the negative 2nd power, and D to the 10 times negative 2, because that is power of a power, which is negative 20. Now, as we do this, we do have to pay attention to the fact that negative exponents move everything to the bottom of a fraction. So I put big 1. This moves to the bottom of a fraction. This moves to the bottom of a fraction. And this moves to the bottom of a fraction, okay? And from here, we can just do some simple math because now the exponents are positive. So I have negative 1 squared, which is the same thing as negative 1 times negative 1, which we know is positive 1. So 1 times 2 squared, which is 4, times d to the 20th, or we just write 1 over 1 times 4, which is 4, d to the 20th power. Okay, we're going to use that same format on this one, but we've got a little bit more going on. It's a pretty hefty, big problem to get into. Notice that we have bases that are the same, so we're probably moving things around, and we're going to be distributing those exponents in. So notice that negative 2 is going to go to all 3 of these. So I'm going to write 4 to the negative 2 times x to the 2 times negative 2, which is negative 4. And 3 times negative 2, which is y to the negative 6. And then check this out. This 2 has got to be distributed to that negative and that 10. So I'm going to write negative 1 to the 2nd power and x to the 10 times 2, which is 20. Okay. At this point, I like to go ahead and clean things up, move some stuff around if I can. Okay, and I'm going to write some fractions. There's more ways than one to do this problem. So negative 1 to the 2nd power, we know is a value of 1. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And then I'm going to write 4 to the negative 2nd power times x to the negative 4th times, I'm going to move that x to the 20th next door to the negative 4th, times y to this negative 6. And why would I take that x to the negative 4 and move it to the x to the 20th? Because I've got the product rule. I can add these exponents together. So I have 4 to the negative 2 times x to the negative 4 plus 20 is 16 times y to the negative 6. Now, I've got negative exponents. I've got a negative exponent right here. I've got a negative exponent right there. What are we going to do with those values? move them to the bottom of a fraction. So I'm going to write x to the 16th up top because it's positive and it stays where it's at. And I'm going to take 4 squared. I'm going to move it down to the bottom and take that y to the -6. I'm going to move it down to the bottom, make it a y to the 6th power. And then I'm going to rewrite some things. X to the 16th power over 4 squared, which is 16, and y to the 6th power. And there we have it, fully simplified with a lot of stuff in there. I hope that helps. I know it's pretty quick, but you can get it.